Let's All Laugh at the Sugars, Part 3. Hello, I'm H.G. Tudor. As we know, the Sugars are not exactly blessed with intelligence. Some of them are bots, some of them are paid-up members of the Sussex Squad, and others have invested their hopes and dreams in Harry's wife and cling on to that, notwithstanding all of the fact that she's been an abject failure that has done very little to promote anybody other than herself. Many of you on other forums, particularly those of Twitter, have found yourself clashing with these sugars, where you attempt to explain to them that Harry's wife is indeed a narcissist and that the evidence supports all of that, only to find yourself losing brain cells as a consequence of your involvement with these particular individuals. It's understandable that you find yourself frustrated and irritated. Occasionally, they wander onto my channel. Admittedly, not very often. I would suggest that the number of comments that they post compared to anybody else is probably 0.1%, if even that. But when they do come through, they always provide a degree of entertainment and amusement as they repeatedly demonstrate the very reason why they are derided and lambasted and lampooned in the first place. And of course, you are all fortunate enough that I collect some of the comments that have crept through and provide them to you as I take you on a little tour through them, as we can laugh at the deluded sugars. So join me as we see what they have been commenting this time around. Now understand, I do this not to cause them to reflect upon their idiocy so that they change. Invariably, I do not expect that to occur, but rather to point out to all of you the similarities in the way that they behave, their failure to adhere to the evidence, something which I repeatedly explain for you to do so in your dealings with the narcissist, and to enable you to therefore understand that this is not a conducive approach, that it's one that's led by emotion and low cognitive function, and therefore to demonstrate to you the outcomes of such an approach, and of course never to go down that route yourself. Naturally, as valuable viewers of my work, you're going to steer clear of doing so. But this isn't to get them to change their views. That simply isn't going to happen. They're too entrenched. But rather to pour ridicule on them to show them for the deluded clowns that they are. But also, as ever, there's a learning lesson in everything that I provide you. Let's bring forth the first set of comments. First up, Missy BM. Hi Harry, hi Harry's wife, of course misspelt as usual, wish you both the best. This shows, of course, the dunderhead that Mrs. BM is, that she is writing such a message on my channel. This isn't Harry's wife's channel or Harry's channel, but she's writing to them as if she knows them, and of course is a clear supporter. Maybe she thinks that given the prominence of my work, it will come to their attention. But then she continues in a further comment stating, I find a little racism in this BS conversation. Well, the actual video that was being commented upon and the comments appertaining to it contained no racism. But this is another instance of where a deluded sugar lump engages in playing the race card where there's no evidence to show that racism is occurring. And it's not even to suggest that it was subtle in nature. The discussions were nothing to do with race. They were all to do with behaviour. And once again, this demonstrates the danger of dense individuals such as this one, of banging on about racism when it isn't. M. Dragamot, HG, you have become totally obsessed with Harry and his wife. Let it go. Well, I haven't. I do create a lot of videos about them, but still, all of my videos about other matters appertaining to narcissism far outnumber those about Harry's wife. And the fact is, many people are interested. And as I've explained on many occasions, but these thickos can't get it into their heads to understand this, I am naturally going to use a platform and use material that many people are interested in. I want to reach as many people with my work about narcissism. And as the many emails that come my way support, there are individuals who didn't know anything about narcissism until they happened upon my work about Harry's wife. and it has enabled them to understand that they're in a relationship with a narcissist, that there's one in their family, and so forth. That is one of the prime purposes as to specifically making these videos about Harry's wife. Furthermore, she provides me with so much material because of her need to be in the press and reported on, and the fact that the press are very interested in her, means that there's a wealth of information of varying degrees of veracity for me then to show various facets of narcissism in action. And it's fluid and it's evolving. We can see the seduction that took place, the devaluation that has occurred. We can see her downward spiral. So it's a real-life, real-time example of narcissism, and it would be utterly remiss of me not to utilize such a prominent example. I regularly state that there are other videos that I would prefer many people would watch, for example, about Putin, a man who theoretically could cause Armageddon. But people are interested in Harry's wife, and therefore I will continue to make the videos about Harry's wife, alongside others, of course. So it's nothing to do with obsession. But of course, M. Dragamot isn't going to actually look at the evidence and compare the number of non-Harry's wife's videos against the ones that exist, or listen to why I explain why I do. That would require a degree of cognitive function that's clearly beyond M. Dragamot. And it's far easier to be a lazy, blancmange-minded plonker and to trot out that trite and inaccurate observation. Liz B. Will you stop arse-licking? She's not a good person, she wears a fur hat, and shoots animals for sport. Stop it. This is both reference to the Princess of Wales. Complimenting somebody that is decent, which of course is a form of manipulation by me by virtue of compliment and flattery, isn't arse-licking at all. Just because, Liz B, that you're a sugar that supports Harry's wife, it doesn't mean that I'm now precluded from talking in complimentary terms about the Princess of Wales, who is an elegant, radiant and magnetic young lady who exhibits considerable emotional empathy. It isn't arse-licking, but you see it that way because it offends your sensitivities, because your heroine isn't being spoken about in such glowing terms. Next up, Garrison Watson. Just goes to show you, the British, rather pejorative, will follow and praise any common trash in the name of tradition. Willie and Katie, geez, what sleaze. And this is demonstrative of the nature of the sugar. You're not allowed to criticise Harry and Harry's wife. To do so is nasty and unpleasant. However, it's perfectly permissible for them to smear William and Kate and to suggest that there's blind following of them of common trash. Well, first of all, Prince William is from the royal family, and therefore his status and station in life is not that of commoner. Kate, yes. However, she has demonstrated through her adherence to service and the way that she has acquitted herself in her role of marrying into the royal family to demonstrate that she's not trash. Who has she smeared? Where has she played the victim? Where has she made false accusations? Garrison Watson, you're simply projecting. Natalia Nakaroyevkova, boring repetition of the same phrase 102,457 times. Doesn't, of course, reference what phrase is being referred to. Of course, clear exaggeration, and just shows the knee-jerk, jelly-minded approach of yet another sugar, because when they hear constructive criticism of Harry's wife, their little brains can't deal with it, and they have to come out with baseless, nonsensical, exaggerated bollocks. Let's now move on to the second lot of observations from the sugars as we continue to laugh at them. And on with our second set of observations. It's worth me pointing out that, as you recall from the previous parts of Let's All Laugh at the Sugars, that those who've made remarks previously have scurried away. You remember Apache from the first ones? Silence so far. Maybe the helicopter has crashed. However, it does show, of course, that these sugar lumps lack the fortitude to continue to engage in any kind of debate, likely because they're intrinsically lazy, both intellectually and in terms of the application of effort. But anyway, here come our next comments, and it's Garrison Watson again. All the media bashing and bad-mouthing from the pathetic British royal family will never tear apart Harry and Harry's wife. Well, first of all, I don't really understand what bad-mouthing you're talking about from the British royal family. They say nothing. So you've got that wrong to begin with. Media bashing, yes, that goes on. But do you know what, Garrison? That's not going to tear apart Harry and Harry's wife. You're absolutely right. What will tear them apart is her behaviour. But of course, here we see typical sugar lump behaviour, trying to prop up Harry and Harry's wife, and then going on to write, much more likely is Slick Willie and his very common wife Kate, as Willie has already followed in his father's footsteps. This, of course, is suggesting that Prince William was involved in an affair, although there's no evidence to actually support that, other than a silly comment that was made, I think, by a drunken Giles Corran, who then retracted it. So consequently, we have this numpty, Garrison Watson, who not only gets things wrong, but then engages in the very behaviour that he complains about, or she complains about, with regard to the treatment of Harry or Harry's wife. Classic sugar lump behaviour. Up next, we have Janelle Martinson. This obsession of yours is becoming boring and trite. If she's so trivial, why give her so much attention? I'm convinced, likely most are all convinced, can we move on now? Well, once again, it's not an obsession. Look at the number of videos that have been created about her, the subject matter apart from Harry's wife, and they clearly outrank her. And as I've explained elsewhere, she's a useful lesson. She is trivial and boring. Why give her so much attention? Well, I'm not directly giving her the attention. Of course, she's being spoken about, which naturally is fuel for her, but she serves a much better purpose to me with regard to using her as an example than I do in terms of the fuel that I'm giving her. So consequently, it is a more effective use of my time and is well worth giving her a bit of fuel because of the advantages that it provides to me. Cost-benefit analysis, Janelle. That's what the Ultra engages in. Andy L. It's interesting how you do about 1 million videos on Harry's wife. Yeah, nowhere near 1 million, but you keep exaggerating there, Andy L. I'm sure you do that when it comes to your penis size. And pick apart every minuscule angle of her. Again, I pick apart her behaviours, but Trump, who led the free world, gets a handful, and your coverage is neutral. Well, again, that's down to me making a decision on my channel, not yours, my channel, as to which videos are ones which most people will engage with as part of extending my reach and legacy. And Trump is an interesting subject, but more people are interested in Harry's wife, therefore she gets more videos. She is more prominent than Trump. He pops up, and when he does, I have done videos about him. The coverage is more neutral of Trump because he doesn't get up my nose in the way that Harry's wife does, because irrespective of what you might think about him, he actually did achieve something. Yes, he was assisted by his father and the money that was provided, but he did create companies. Yes, they're not hugely successful, and they're often founded on other people's money, the bank's money. But at least he's done so, and he became elected President of the United States. He didn't wander around jumping on bandwagons. He didn't wander around talking about things and never getting around to doing them. And he actually did achieve things whilst in office. And therefore, the coverage would be more neutral of him to recognise the fact that he's that type of narcissist that actually achieves something, as compared with Harry's wife, who doesn't achieve anything at all, other than provide a useful instruction with regard to narcissism. Jen Holmes, yes, the shriek of the sugar lump is loud and clear here. Leave H&M alone. No. And stop making money out of them. Why not? They make money out of other people. Why can't we make money out of them? Sick of whinging poms. Oh, would that not be a little bit racist, Jen Holmes? Describing us as poms, using a racial epithet towards us? Is that not the case? Is that not something that you would defend Harry's wife in regard to? But, oh, look, like the sugar lump that you are, you engage in the very behaviour that you criticise other people of. Clown. And then in our second part, Fifi. We should accept your opinion of who and who is not a bully. Yes, you should, because I'm providing it based on evidence, which is far more than you do. A self-described narcissistic psychopath, well diagnosed actually, but carry on, who admittedly smears and treats people terribly. Yes, I'm honest about it. That's why my work has efficacy. Such manipulation of your listeners, nice tactic. Well, I don't smear my listeners, apart from idiots such as you, Fifi. And I don't treat my listeners badly, because they serve a purpose to me and they're painted white. You see, if you actually listen to my work, rather than spending time jumping to a knee-jerk reaction, which is typical of a sugar lump, you'd actually understand all of this. You'd understand why I interact with my decent readers and viewers and listeners in the way that I do. You'd also understand why the narcissist is manipulating, but often it'll be done with certain categories of appliance in a benign fashion. But you see, you don't listen to these things because it doesn't penetrate your cloth-eared dunderheadedness. And instead, all you want to do is squawk on about what you want to say, rather than actually having due regard for listening to me and how I explain it all. If you and your other sugar lumps actually attempted to listen and crank up some degree of cognitive function, you'd find it a very rewarding experience. And here come yet more sugar lumps. In our third slide, tiny spoof. All you talk about is Harry's wife. No, I don't. I talk about Kevin Spacey. I talk about the police narcissist. I talk about Taylor Swift. I ask, is this a narcissist with regard to an influencer? I talk about Amber Heard. I talk about why the narcissist doesn't want you dead or does want you dead. I talk about Donald Trump. I explain to you, is narcissism on the rise? Do I explain to you the relationship between the genders in relation to narcissism? I talk to you about the 5 reasons that the narcissist devalues you. I explain to you the reasons why the narcissist disengages from you. I explain to you what flying monkeys are. I explain what the online troll is. I explain to you how you're viewed as an appliance vis-a-vis a toaster. I explain how you're being conned and how it's done in an insidious fashion. I talk about Vladimir Putin and the Tinder swindler and Princess Martha Louise and how she's been ensnared. I talk about the interactions between Donald Trump and Ron DeSantis. I talk about King Charles. I talk about the Princess of Wales. I talk about Chrissy Teigen. I talk about how emotional thinking affects victims. I tell you about triangulation, word salads. I tell you about the way that a narcissist smears and how that impacts. I answer the question of whether a narcissist will always get rid of you. I tell you about the different types of empath. I tell you about the different types of narcissist and the way that they function and operate. I talk about James Corden, arsehole. I think you're getting the picture now, aren't you? That your observation about the fact that all I ever do talk about Harry's wife is without foundation. But once again, you see, it shows the slack-jawed, mouth-breathing approach of somebody such as you. You then ask, are you jealous of her? Well, first of all, you mean envious. And no, I'm not, in short. Toddler Life and Beyond, why you do not like Harry's wife? Ultimately, because I find her tedious and boring. There's your question answered. Jocelyn Richemond, guys, why are you being so racist against Harry's wife just because she's biracial? No, Jocelyn, nobody's being racist. You don't see any racist comments on this channel about her. It's all about her behaviour. But, of course, as a sugar lump, as a certified member of that group of idiots, you completely fail to see that that's the case. And all you do repeatedly is go, you're being racist, you're being racist, you're being racist. It's boring, it's lazy, and it's inaccurate. Missy BM, back again, I see. What a nasty commentator. You're, and again, understandably, with one of the sugar lumps, it is your, as in Y-O-U'-R-E, but one wouldn't expect you to understand that because your standards of English and grammar are atrocious. And apparently I'm ev-ill, whatever that is. Oh, do you mean evil? Well, if you're going to insult me, first of all, that isn't, because I can understand why people would think that I am evil, but at least do spell it correctly, rather than make yourself look like the prune that you are. Next up, we have Sandy Kane. So a 50-year-old, I don't know where you get that from, I'm younger than 50, self-proclaimed narcissist, no, diagnosed, but if you actually listened, you'd know that. But you don't, you see, because you're intellectually slack as the brain. Is calling her 40, well, you can't even get her age right because she claims to be 41, woman and mother minding her business, but she isn't, is she? Again, you completely fail to have any regard to the evidence, Sandy Kane. She doesn't mind her business. Having bleated about wanting privacy, she spends all of her time telling us about everything that she does, apart from her children. A narcissist. And I'm supposed to believe you. I don't give a rat's ass whether you believe me, Sandy Kane, because the simple fact is, someone such as you is so idiotic, you're incapable of understanding and therefore it really doesn't trouble me whether you believe me or not. There are plenty of sensible, educated, constructive individuals who look at the evidence and my expertise and reach the appropriate conclusion. Get real. Oh, I'm very real. And believe me, Sandy Kane, I'd be very real if I was stood in front of you, and I don't think you'd be so quite insulting if I were. You have something wrong with your brain. No, there's nothing wrong with my brain. My brain functions excellently well, unlike yours, which is demonstrative that you are an epsilon semi-moron. And stop attacks NG women. I don't even understand what you're writing. Probably you don't either, who have nothing to do with you. But she has something to do with me, because she puts herself in my crosshairs as a consequence of not engaging in the privacy that she claims that she wants. Get a life. I have a very successful one, unlike yours. And then finally, Victoria de la Boulay has appeared once again. Good luck deciphering this one, viewers. YouTube is stating that the narcissistic psychopath knows he's busted for stalking and targeting. Don't know who that's referring to. I don't think it's meant to be me. More so, the reality show is very concerning to his control, and it appears very bad re Diana that he's guilty. It's a very serious situation. If only I knew what she was talking about. He placed it up re his relation to Tudor to see whether there would be complete control and silence on it identifying him, and it did not, as I posted my knowledge of this. After seeing this veiled threat to attempt to supposedly humiliate a person, to silence they made it known that his net control will be through his fake PR crime ring of lawyers online to frame any person who talks. Sorry, I do not do embarrassed. No, you don't seem to do coherence either. I have not ever. It is pathetic criminals that have to reach for abuse and deceit that own that embarrassment. Well, if you've any idea what Victoria de la Boulay is referring to with reference to something to do with Diana and something to do with the royal family, then answers on a postcard or on the email, and you're a better man than I am, Gunga Din. And there we are, the sugar lumps. Just a handful of examples there, and undoubtedly more will trickle through, and I will pick them apart, and we can all laugh at the sugar lumps together. I'm H.G. Tudor. Thank you for watching.